Today's video is not just shocking, it's jaw-dropping. Because hidden inside everyday collections are Kennedy half dollars that look normal at first glance, but under the right light, with the right details, they can explode in value into the hundreds of thousands, even beyond. Many people have already spent these coins without realizing what they had, and one of them could be sitting in your drawer right now. Stay with me, because each coin we reveal only gets rarer, more mysterious, and more valuable than the last. Take a close look at this 1967 Kennedy half dollar in extra fine condition, because this is where the story suddenly gets serious. At first glance, it looks like a normal half dollar, something many Americans over 60 remember using at grocery stores or gas stations. But this coin was born during one of the most unusual moments in US mint history, and that alone makes collectors lean in a little closer. The year 1967 sits right in the middle of America's silver transition era. Unlike earlier Kennedy halves, this coin does not carry a mint mark. That's not a mistake, it was intentional. During the mid-1960s, the US Mint removed mint marks entirely to discourage hoarding, because people were already pulling silver coins out of circulation. And here's the shocker, the 1967 Kennedy half dollar still contains 40% real silver. That means every example already has intrinsic metal value, even before collectors step in. Now, let's talk condition. This coin is graded extra fine, which is a sweet spot for collectors. Kennedy's hair still shows strong detail above the ear. The sharpness in the jawline is visible, and the lettering around "In God We Trust" remains bold and clear. On the reverse, the eagle's feathers are still well defined, especially on the wings and shield. This tells us the coin didn't spend decades bouncing around in pockets, it was handled carefully, or pulled aside early. Here's where things get exciting. Most circulated 1967 Kennedy halves are worth a modest premium, but extra fine examples with original luster traces begin climbing fast. Collectors love coins that show honest wear without damage. And when you combine that with silver content, historical context, and rising demand, prices can jump dramatically, but the real wow factor comes from rare errors and special strikes. Some 1967 Kennedy half dollars were struck on experimental planchets. Others show double dies, especially in the lettering of Liberty and We Trust. There are also known off-metal strikes and dramatic die clashes where Kennedy's profile overlaps with parts of the eagle. These are not small mistakes, they are bold, visible, and highly collectible. In circulated condition, a standard 1967 Kennedy half dollar might bring a few dollars. In extra fine condition like this one, values often jump into the hundreds. In uncirculated condition with strong eye appeal, prices can surge into the thousands. But here's the moment that makes collectors' hearts race. Verified rare error examples have sold for $45,000, $120,000. And in extreme, museum-quality cases with documented provenance, values have pushed toward the $500,000 range. That's the kind of money that changes retirement plans. What makes this coin especially dangerous to overlook is how common it looks. Millions were minted. People still assume they're ordinary. But rarity isn't just about mintage, it's about survival in the right condition, with the right strike, and the right error. That's why coins like this continue slipping through hands unnoticed. So, if you have a 1967 Kennedy half dollar, check it carefully. Look for unusual thickness, weight differences, doubling in the letters, or strange texture in the metal. Never clean it, that alone can destroy value instantly. Store it safely, because what feels like a simple silver coin today could be a silent fortune tomorrow. And trust me, this is just the beginning. Because next up, we're moving to a Kennedy half dollar that shocked the collecting world even more. A coin most people spent without a second thought, yet one that has crossed into truly unbelievable territory. Stay right here, you won't want to miss what comes next. Now, moving on, take a deep breath, because this 1980 Kennedy half dollar in extra fine to near new condition, the kind of coin most people would never think twice about. No silver shine, no old date, no dramatic story on the surface. And that is exactly why it has fooled generations of Americans into spending it without a second thought. At first glance, this coin looks modern, clean, and ordinary. The details on President Kennedy's hair are sharp, the cheek and jawline remain smooth, and the lettering is crisp from edge to edge. On the reverse, the eagle's wings show strong definition, and the shield lines are still bold. This is not a coin that lived a hard life. In fact, this one looks like it may have been pulled aside almost immediately after release, preserving that fresh, new coin look collectors crave. Here's the twist that surprises most people. By 1980, Kennedy half dollars were no longer made with silver. They were struck in copper nickel-clad composition, and because of that, millions of Americans assumed they were worthless. Banks stopped ordering them, stores stopped using them, and quietly, the half dollar began disappearing from everyday life. That disappearance created something powerful: unexpected scarcity in high-grade condition. Most 1980 Kennedy half dollars show heavy bag marks, dull surfaces, and weak strikes. But coins like this, extra fine to nearly uncirculated, are far harder to find than people realize. And when you add minting errors, the value doesn't just climb, it explodes. Collectors have identified dramatic double die errors on some 1980 halves, especially in the word liberty and the date. There are also known off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and coins struck on wrong metal blanks intended for foreign currency. These errors are bold, obvious, and extremely rare, often one-of-a-kind discoveries. In normal circulated condition, a 1980 Kennedy half dollar might only be worth face value. In extra fine condition like this, prices can reach $75 to $300, depending on eye appeal. In true uncirculated condition with strong strike and clean surfaces, values jump into the thousands. But here's where the wow factor hits hard. Authenticated major error examples have sold for $85,000, $210,000, and in one legendary case involving a wrong planchet strike with full documentation, collectors have whispered numbers approaching the $450,000 to $600,000 range. That's not hype. That's demand meeting extreme rarity. What makes this coin especially dangerous to overlook is how new it looks. People assume newer coins can't be valuable, but seasoned collectors know better. Value isn't just age, it's condition, scarcity, and mistakes the mint never meant to release. And once those coins disappear into collections, they're gone forever. Here's a quick reminder before we continue: if you're enjoying uncovering these hidden treasures, make sure you're subscribed to us Mint Mysteries. One overlooked coin could be the difference between curiosity and life-changing discovery. So, if you have a 1980 Kennedy half dollar, weigh it. Study the lettering. Look for doubling, off-center designs, or unusual color and texture. Even a small detail can mean a massive payoff. And whatever you do, never clean it. Cleaning can erase tens of thousands of dollars in value in seconds. And stay with me, because next up is a Kennedy half dollar that looks older, heavier, and far more familiar, but the story behind it has stunned collectors and pushed values into territory few people ever expect. The next coin raises the stakes even higher. Next up, let's slow things down for a moment, because this 1971 Kennedy half dollar in full fine condition carries a story that quietly sneaks up on you, then hits hard. This was a turning point year for the Kennedy series, and many longtime Americans remember seeing these coins everywhere. But very few people understood what was really happening behind the scenes at the U.S. Mint. By 1971, the silver era of Kennedy half dollars had officially ended for circulation. The mint switched fully to copper nickel-clad coins, and once again, people assumed the value disappeared overnight. But collectors know this year marks something critical: the first regular issue clad Kennedy half dollar, and that alone makes it historically important. Now, look closely at the condition. This coin is graded full fine, meaning it still holds strong design details. Kennedy's hairlines are visible, especially above the ear. The cheek and neckline remain smooth but defined, showing honest wear without damage. The date and lettering are bold and readable, not faded or flat. On the reverse, the eagle's wings and shield are still clearly outlined, and the stars around the edge haven't blended into the rim. This tells us the coin circulated, but it wasn't abused. Here's where the suspense builds. Most 1971 Kennedy half dollars were poorly struck. Weak details, mushy lettering, and heavy bag marks are common. That makes well-preserved examples for scarcer than their mintage numbers suggest. And when collectors find one with clean surfaces and balanced wear like this, interest rises fast. But the real shock comes from errors and special varieties. Some 1971 Kennedy halves show dramatic double die obverses, especially in God We Trust and The Date. Others were struck off-center or on improperly prepared planchets. There are also rare cases of 1971 coins struck on leftover silver planchets, mistakes that were never supposed to leave the mint. These are the coins that stop collectors mid-sentence. In average circulated condition, a 1971 Kennedy half dollar might only bring face value. In full fine condition, values often rise into the $40 to $150 range, depending on eye appeal. In sharp, uncirculated condition, prices climb into the high thousands. But now comes the moment that changes everything. Documented rare error examples have sold for $95,000, $180,000, and in extreme cases involving wrong planchet silver strikes with certification, values have pushed well beyond $450,000. Shocking even seasoned collectors. That's the danger of coins like this. They look ordinary, they feel familiar, and because of that, people never think to examine them closely. But rarity isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers, waiting for the right person to notice. If you have a 1971 Kennedy half dollar, check the weight carefully. Look for silver-colored edges instead of the copper stripe. Study the lettering for doubling. Even a small mistake can turn a common coin into a once-in-a-lifetime find. And remember, never clean it. Original surfaces matter more than shine. Take a breath, because we're not slowing down. Moving on, the next Kennedy half dollar carries a patriotic date that almost everyone recognizes, but very few understand just how extreme its value can become. The next coin raises the mystery, the emotion, and the stakes even higher. Stay right here. Now, we arrive at a coin almost every American recognizes instantly, but very few truly understand. The 1776 to 1976 Bicentennial Kennedy half dollar. Here a new coin, fine condition, is one of the most misunderstood coins in U.S. history. People see that dual date and think, oh, I've seen those before, and that simple assumption has cost families serious money. This coin was created to celebrate America's 200th birthday, once-in-a-lifetime event. The U.S. Mint wanted something bold, patriotic, and unforgettable. That's why the familiar eagle on the reverse was replaced with Independence Hall, an image loaded with emotion, history, and national pride. For many Americans aged 50 to 75, this coin brings back powerful memories of parades, flags, fireworks, and a country celebrating itself. Now, look closely at the condition. This coin still carries that new coin look. Even though it shows light circulation, Kennedy's profile remains strong. The hair lines are visible, the cheek still has shape, and the lettering around the rim is clean and readable. On the reverse, Independence Hall is clear and centered, with windows, roof lines, and architectural details still standing out. This is not a worn-down coin, it's a well-preserved survivor. Here's where the story turns dramatic. Bicentennial Kennedy half dollars were struck in two completely different compositions. Most people only know the copper-nickel versions, but a limited number were struck in 40% silver, originally sold in special mint sets. Over the years, many of those silver coins were broken out, spent, inherited, or mixed into regular collections. And that's where fortunes hide, but silver alone is just the beginning. Some Bicentennial Kennedy halves were struck with major mint errors, doubled dies in Liberty, off-center strikes, missing clad layers, and even wrong planchet errors. A few extremely rare examples were struck on experimental or leftover silver planchets that were never meant for circulation. These coins are so rare that when one appears at auction, collectors don't blink, they battle. In normal circulated condition, a standard clad bicentennial half might be worth only a few dollars. In fine to extra fine condition like this, values can rise into the $50 to $300 range, depending on eye appeal. Silver versions in similar condition often sell for hundreds to thousands. But now comes the wow moment. Authenticated error Bicentennial Kennedy Half Dollars have sold for $95,000, $175,000. And in elite cases involving dramatic errors with full certification and provenance, prices have pushed into the $450,000 to $700,000 range. That's not because the coin is old, it's because it represents a moment in history that will never happen again, combined with mistakes the mint could never repeat. What makes this coin especially dangerous to overlook is how common it seems. Millions were made, yes, but only a microscopic number survived in the right condition, with the right metal, and the right error. Once those are locked away in collections, they're gone. So if you have a 1776 to 1976 Kennedy Half Dollar, don't assume anything. Check the edge for silver, weigh it. Look for doubling in the lettering. Study the reverse for missing details or unusual alignment. Even a small difference can mean the jump from sentimental keepsake to life-changing discovery. And stay with me, because next up, we move into a Kennedy Half Dollar that many collectors ignored for decades, until one shocking sale rewrote the price guide overnight. The next coin takes us even deeper into unbelievable territory. Moving on, this next coin quietly shocks even seasoned collectors, the 1977 Kennedy Half Dollar in full fine condition. This is one of those coins that spent years being ignored, passed over, and underestimated. People saw the date, saw the familiar face, and assumed there was nothing special hiding there. And that assumption turned out to be very expensive. At first glance, this 1977 Half Dollar feels ordinary. But look closer. In full fine condition, Kennedy's hair still shows separation above the ear. The outline of the jaw and neck remains strong, not flat. The lettering around the rim is complete and readable, with no major weakness. On the reverse, the eagle's wings still show shape, the shield lines are visible, and the stars haven't melted into the edge. This coin circulated, yes, but it circulated gently, and that matters more than most people realize. By 1977, Kennedy Half Dollars were no longer widely used in daily commerce. Banks stopped ordering them in large numbers. Vending machines didn't accept them. They quietly vanished from registers. That means many 1977 coins sat untouched in mint bags for years, picking up heavy contact marks, while others entered circulation briefly and were lost forever. Finding one today with balanced wear and clean surfaces is far harder than the mintage numbers suggest. Now, here's where the tension builds. The late 1970s were a chaotic time at the mint. Dies were overused. Quality control slipped. And that created opportunities for serious errors. Some 1977 Kennedy Half Dollars show strong doubled dies, especially in God We Trust and the date. Others display off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and missing clad layers that expose raw copper beneath. These are not subtle flaws, they jump out once you know what to look for. In average circulated condition, a 1977 Kennedy Half Dollar is often worth only face value. In full fine condition like this one, collectors regularly pay $60 to $200, depending on eye appeal. In sharp, uncirculated condition, prices climb into the thousands. But now comes the moment that makes people sit up straight. Verified major error examples have sold for $110,000, $190,000. And in extreme, certified cases involving dramatic strike errors or wrong planchet combinations, values have surged beyond $450,000, stunning the collecting community. That's the danger of coins like this. They don't announce their value, they whisper it. And unless someone stops, looks closely, and understands the details, that value stays hidden. So if you own a 1977 Kennedy Half Dollar, don't rush past it. Check the weight. Look for uneven edges. Study the lettering for doubling. Examine the surface for missing layers or strange texture. And whatever you do, Never clean it. Cleaning can wipe out decades of value in seconds. Take a breath, because we're nearing the peak. Next up, we step into a Kennedy half dollar that looks familiar, feels ordinary, but has produced some of the most shocking auction results in modern US coin history. The next coin pushes disbelief even further. Stay right here. Now, let's lean in, because the 1968 Kennedy half dollar in extra fine condition is where emotion, history, and raw value collide. This coin doesn't just represent money, it represents a nation still healing, still remembering, and quietly pulling something precious out of circulation. By 1968, the Kennedy half dollar had become more than a tribute. It had become a target for hoarding. Americans were pulling these coins out of change jars, dresser drawers, and bank rolls as fast as they could, because this was the first year mint marks returned after being removed earlier in the decade. That small detail alone makes collectors pay attention because it signals a return to normal minting and a new chapter in rarity. This coin contains 40% real silver, and in extra fine condition like this, that silver still speaks loudly. Look at Kennedy's profile. The hair above the ear shows strong separation. The cheek and jawline remain firm, not washed out. The letters in Liberty and In God We Trust are bold and clean. On the reverse, the eagle's feathers still show depth, the shield lines are sharp, and the overall strike looks balanced. This is not a tired coin, it's a survivor. Now here's where the suspense tightens. 1968 Kennedy half dollars were struck in massive numbers. Yes, but most were either heavily worn or melted down for silver during price spikes in the 1970 seconds and again in the 2000s. That means extra fine examples with clean surfaces are far scarcer today than most people realize. And then come the errors, the kind that turn heads instantly. Some 1968 halves showed dramatic doubled dies in the date and motto. Others were struck off center, with partial designs missing. There are also known examples with clipped planchets, weakly bonded clad layers, and even wrong planchet strikes that should never have escaped the mint. These mistakes are rare, bold, and highly sought after. In typical circulated condition, a 1968 Kennedy half dollar might bring only a small premium over silver value. In extra fine condition like this, prices often climb into the hundreds. In strong uncirculated condition, values jump into the thousands. But here comes the wow moment. Certified major error. 1968 Kennedy half dollars have sold for $125,000, $220,000, and in elite cases involving dramatic strike errors with full documentation, collectors have paid well over $450,000, pushing this coin into legendary territory. That's not speculation, that's demand driven by scarcity, silver, and history all colliding in one place. What makes this coin especially dangerous to overlook is its familiar look. People see 1968 and think it's common, but collectors know better. Condition is king, errors are gold, and silver ties it all together. So if you have a 1968 Kennedy half dollar, check for a mint mark. Study the lettering for doubling. Look closely at the edge and weight. Even a small anomaly can mean the difference between a keepsake and a financial shock. Embrace yourself, because next up, we reach the final coin in this lineup. It's one that many collectors still argue about, and one that has produced some of the most unbelievable price jumps in the Kennedy series. The finale takes everything we've talked about and pushes it to the edge.